In the winter of 1994, 3 men entered the Hollow Creek mine in eastern Kentucky. Only one came back out. And when rescuers found him wandering near the highway nearly 12 hours later, he was barefoot, covered in blood that wasn't his, and repeating the same sentence over and over again. Something followed us out of the mountain. Authorities blamed the incident on a tunnel collapse, but the people of Hollow Creek never believed that story. Because for decades, miners had whispered about strange sounds beneath the mountain. Sounds that didn't belong to any machine. And according to the few survivors willing to speak about it, those tunnels were never truly empty.
Hollow Creek was once a thriving mining town buried deep in the Appalachian Mountains. In the 1940s and 50s, the mines brought jobs, money, and hundreds of families into the valley. At its peak, nearly 4,000 people lived there. But by the late 1980s, the coal dried up. Businesses closed, families left, and Hollow Creek slowly became another forgotten American ghost town. Today, only a few dozen residents remain. Most of the buildings sit abandoned beside rusted roads and collapsing wooden homes. Thick fog rolls through the valley almost every evening, swallowing the town long before sunset. At the edge of Hollow Creek sits Mine Shaft 12, the oldest tunnel in the region, officially sealed after multiple worker deaths in 1961. But locals claim the mine was never fully closed. They say people still hear movement underground at night. Metal scraping against stone, footsteps echoing through empty tunnels, and sometimes voices.
For years, most people dismissed the stories as Appalachian folklore, the kind of legends every mining town eventually develops. But in 1992, strange reports began surfacing again. A retired miner named Walter Griggs claimed he heard knocking sounds beneath his basement floor shortly after midnight. At first, he assumed it was old pipes, until the knocking started responding to him. 3 knocks, then silence, then 3 more, always from directly beneath the house. A few weeks later, hikers exploring the nearby woods reported hearing what sounded like distant screaming coming from the mountain itself. Search teams found nothing. No missing person, no animals. Nothing except old footprints leading toward the abandoned mine entrance. Footprints that suddenly stopped halfway through the mud, as if whoever made them had simply vanished. Still, life in Hollow Creek continued. Children rode bicycles down cracked roads. The remaining miners drank together at the local bar. And every evening, fog settled over the valley like a blanket. But little by little, people started noticing things that didn't feel right. Dogs refusing to go near the mine road. Electrical outages occurring at exactly 2:13 a.m. And strange figures reportedly standing near the tree line during storms. Always watching, never moving.
Then came the disappearance of the Mercer brothers. On October 11th, 1994, brothers Daniel and Curtis Mercer entered Mine Shaft 12 with their friend, Eli Parker. The 3 men were amateur explorers, filming a documentary about abandoned Appalachian mines. According to Eli, the group only planned to stay underground for an hour. They carried flashlights, 2 cameras, and basic climbing gear. At 8:42 p.m., they entered the tunnel. That was the last confirmed sighting of Daniel and Curtis alive. Eli later told investigators the mine felt wrong almost immediately. The air inside was unusually warm. There was no wind, no dripping water, no sound at all, just silence. The deeper they walked, the quieter everything became. Even their footsteps sounded muted, as if the tunnel itself was absorbing noise. Then they found the markings. Hundreds of symbols scratched into the tunnel walls. Circles, human shapes, and strange phrases carved repeatedly into the stone. "Don't look when it stops moving." At first, they assumed it was graffiti left by trespassers, until Daniel noticed the scratches looked fresh, as if someone had carved them recently. That's when they heard the first sound, a metallic clang echoing somewhere deep inside the tunnel walls. Then another.
Closer this time. Eli said Curtis laughed nervously and called out into the darkness.
Hello?
No response. Just another clang. Slow. Heavy. Like metal dragging across rock. The men turned off their flashlights for a moment to listen. And that's when they saw it. A shape moving in the darkness ahead. Tall. Thin. Almost human. But wrong somehow. Its arms looked too long. Its movements unnatural, jerking suddenly before going completely still. Eli later said the figure didn't walk. It twitched forward, like something pretending to move like a person. The group panicked immediately. Daniel wanted to leave. Curtis insisted it was probably another explorer trying to scare them. But the figure kept getting closer, without making a sound. Eli grabbed the camera and pointed the light directly toward the tunnel. For less than a second, the figure froze. And according to Eli, that was the moment he realized it wasn't human. Its face looked pale and stretched. Its mouth hung open far too wide, and its eyes reflected light like an animal standing on the side of a highway at night. Then, the tunnel went dark. Their flashlights died simultaneously. All three men began shouting. The camera audio captured rapid breathing, footsteps, and a loud scraping noise moving behind them. Then, Daniel screamed. Not a normal scream. A scream so violent and terrified that investigators later described it as inhuman panic. The recording ended seconds later. At 6:17 the next morning, Eli Parker stumbled onto Highway 52, nearly 6 miles from the mine entrance. Disoriented, barefoot, bleeding from cuts along his arms and neck. Police initially believed he had suffered severe psychological trauma after becoming trapped underground. But Eli's story never changed. He claimed something chased them through the tunnels, something that mimicked voices. At one point, he heard Daniel calling for help from deeper inside the mine. But Daniel had been standing beside him moments earlier. Then the voice started coming from everywhere at once. The walls, the darkness, the tunnel behind them. Eli said Curtis disappeared first. 1 second, he was running ahead with the flashlight. The next, he was gone. No scream, no sound, nothing. Then Daniel vanished too. Eli claimed the last thing he saw before escaping the mine was a figure standing motionless in the tunnel, watching him, smiling.
Rescue teams searched Mine Shaft 12 for nearly 3 days. They found the camera. They found climbing gear. And they found deep scratch marks covering parts of the tunnel walls. But they never found Daniel or Curtis Mercer. Official reports blamed unstable tunnels and possible underground cave-ins. The case was eventually closed. But the people of Hollow Creek still talk about what happened that night. Because after the disappearances, the sounds reportedly returned. Miners living near the mountain described hearing knocking beneath their homes again. 3 knocks. Then silence. Then 3 more. And several residents claim they've seen lights moving inside the abandoned mine long after midnight. As if someone or something is still down there. Today, Mine Shaft 12 remains sealed behind rusted metal gates deep in the Appalachian wilderness. No trespassing signs cover the entrance. Most locals refuse to go near it after dark. Not because they believe the old legends, but because too many people who entered those tunnels never came back out. And sometimes, late at night, when the fog rolls through Hollow Creek, residents say they still hear metal scraping beneath the mountain. Slow, heavy, getting closer.